Hello, welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on Tuesday, April the 21st in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC. I'd like to start by thanking the volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes this happen. The first part of Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, and every week it seems to get a little bit crazier. Today was the latest Harper budget came out, and I just wrote something down as I was having tea before the show started, and I'll just read it. This is a take from the poor and give to the rich budget. And I can't even remember what I've written, so who knows where it's going to end. This is a take from the poor and give to the rich budget. In other words, it is exactly the same budget we have had from just about every federal and every provincial government for the last 25 or 30 years. 25 or 30 years ago is when we Canadians completely lost control of our country, and the corporations and the billionaires took us over. And look where we are now. Radiation washing up on our shores, an oil spill in downtown Vancouver, our entire food supply filled with genetically contaminated food, the entire corporate media too corrupt to ever say anything like this, Canada's at war. It's like there was a takeover of our country by some very corrupt people, and they own all the media, so they control the story that we hear, and it works. The media is very powerful. Lots of people believe and trust the media, and I did too for most of my life. And it's been a very shocking experience to see, at least to the stage where I'm at now, just how corrupt everything at the top of this country is. But I really think we can, well, I don't know if I really think we can change it, but we've got to try, because we're really late in the game here. So what can we do? I say media is very important. Don't believe the media. Don't believe the media story. It's all a pack of lies on virtually every important issue. And they're very good at what they do. They're very good at tricking us. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not all a pack of lies. And second, we have to build democracy, which means that we have a voice, that it's not only the corporations that tell us what to do, but somebody actually, the government actually cares about what the people think. So, wow, what a week.
It's a bit of a mess. It's true. You know, the budgets. You know, you really wish that the budget they give on the election year, they'd give out immediately after they get elected, so they could actually try out these budgets. You know, and the Conservatives are the masters of playing with numbers. It's, you know, it's just a sleight of hand trick, and you know, there's the masters of sophistry and BS. You really don't know for sure what they're saying. I was just listening to the news on the way in too, and you know, they claim they have a small surplus. Of course, they can't say it's exactly balanced. They got a little surplus, but they also mentioned that they sold $3 billion worth of government assets they had in General Motors. They robbed, as far as I'm concerned, $2 billion of the unemployment insurance fund. And then they took another $2 billion out of something they call a rainy day fund. You wonder, well, like, where are they getting this money, and how are they coming up with the numbers, really? You know, we wouldn't have a clue whether it reflects reality or not. We have the government that they decided they're going to attach ourselves to the oil development and really link as much of our economy into that. And then when the price of oil's gone down, our economy is really getting yanked hard. You
know, what I really don't like is people are hurting. A lot of people are hurting these days, and something like subsidized daycare, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense. I think it makes sense. But they won't do it. They just won't do it. They just are just grinding people.
You know, in Quebec, Jack, they it's been a huge success.
Yeah, of course.
And it actually
Quebec has it, for those of you that don't know. It's what, $7 a day? Used to be
yeah, and
5.
it's actually stimulated their economy because more women have been able to get back into the workforce, and it created economic activity. And you know, the way money is made and created, and we talked about this more in the show in the past, but you know, the very, very best place to put your government funds if you want to create economic activity is in the hands of the people, not into large infrastructure things or not into investments. Actually figure out ways to get money into the pockets of the people. That generates a huge amount of economic activity because it all gets spent right where we live, creating our local economies. You couldn't do a better thing. And most of these things that the feds have offered is just not that. It's just something else.
And plus, everybody's so deep in debt, you know, or I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people are so deep in debt that, you know, and that's the plan. I mean, we didn't get to where we are economically by accident. This has been the plan for the last 25 or 30 years. It was to put us into debt. It was to create homelessness. It was to create, you know, in the last 10 years, this hugely crazy housing market, move our jobs overseas, just destabilize us. And that's what they've done. And huge fortunes have been made. Huge fortunes have been made from doing this. I just want to, this is the Globe and Mail today. Over the last couple of days, there's been the story of a migrant ship, they called it, trying to escape from around Libya, sank, many hundreds of people killed. So this is what the Globe and Mail starts off by saying. The merciless and cold-hearted strategy of Libya's human traffickers was highlighted again on Monday when 2 boats carrying 450 people, But what they don't say is, I mean, the Globe and Mail is in part to blame for this, because a Canadian general commanded the NATO bombing of Libya. Libya was, I think, a fairly prosperous nation. It had the highest standard of living in Africa. Now it's a failed state. And for the Globe and Mail to print this picture and pretend that they care, and I don't want to pick on the Globe and Mail, all the media and the politicians, to pretend that they care about these people when a Canadian general led the bombing of Libya, which destroyed that nation. And we don't even know about it. I mean, we Canadians are to blame, and we don't even know about it. They never told us about it. I mean, they never really told us what they were doing, and they did it deliberately. Harper and the corporations he works for, and all the cabinet ministers, I mean, that will sell us out and betray us, and all the politicians who will sell us out and betray us to keep their nice careers. Nobody dares speak the truth in our parliament. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, when we were talking about, you know, over the last few shows, talking about the connection between the Harper Conservatives and the Canada's embassy in Jordan and the smuggling of people into Turkey, and these are mainstream sources we were quoting. You know, the Turkish government was making these claims. You'd think, like, you know, the other opposition parties would have picked up on that.
Yeah.
And this is damning evidence that the Conservatives are up to something that's really not what it seems, let's say. And it always is such a curiosity when you think, okay, this is the story that's going to, you know, really do it to these guys. And the opposition parties don't touch it. And we're into trouble when they're not willing to pick up these scandals, because these are the things that the public deserves to hear and really to find out about. And it's really too bad that they all seem to play a sort of a game of some sort, that they won't talk about these issues.
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know if I'm right, but the only thing I can think of is that all the political parties are very afraid of the media. And the media is controlled by the people who run the country. And I mean, every politician, the three leaders, Harper, Trudeau, Mulcair, and Elizabeth May, well, Elizabeth May off to the side right now. But those three know that their party can be destroyed in a minute by the media. Because we Canadians still believe the media, and when they tell us a story, we believe it. Many of us believe it. For example, you know, how did we get into the mess we're in today? How did Stephen Harper come to power? And I was just looking at it today. It was the sponsorship scandal. The sponsorship scandal destroyed the Paul Martin government. Paul Martin was, I think, just about the most popular prime minister we've ever had. But he did something that the corporations didn't want. And they went after him with the sponsorship scandal. So I looked it up on Wikipedia today. I think it was something like $100 million was involved in total over the entire nation over a period of several years. And basically there was, you know, it was spent trying to promote Canada in Quebec, which I think isn't a bad thing since the corporations were trying to split the country up at the time. So about $100 million were involved. In the investigation, the Gomery investigation, they found out that Paul Martin had nothing to do with it, wasn't involved with it. And, you know, most of the money was spent. And you got some value for it. Yes, it wasn't perfect, and a few $1 million was stolen. A few $1 million. That's what it said in Wikipedia. And they destroyed the Paul Martin government with it and gave us Stephen Harper. They put Harper in place. The corporate media put Stephen Harper in place, and we've had him ever since because they want him. And they want him because he is giving corporate Canada everything they want and destroying our nation. So the sponsorship scandal was a few $1 million. I remember the media. I remember Michael Smith. Michael Smith works for the Vancouver province, and he's on CKNW a lot as well, out of Vancouver, biggest radio station in Vancouver. I remember him calling this the biggest scandal in Canadian history. A few $1 million. They spent $500 million putting a roof on BC Place just here in Vancouver. $500 million. The cost overruns at the convention center, $500 million. Stephen Harper's probably a war criminal. Vioxx killed 5,000 Canadians. The media never mentions it.
No.
But when you get on the wrong side and they want to get rid of you.
Well, you know, I think public relations firms play a lot greater role than what we're acknowledging too, Jack, because, you know, this is all part and parcel of what you're saying about the media being in control, but I often think when I look at the responses of these politicians on certain issues that they're all kind of singing from the same songbook. And you think, okay, well, who's instructed them to take these positions on these issues like this? And often you will see that the same public relations firms are running, the same names are running all the parties' campaigns, more or less. So, you know, I think that's where we're really into big problems here. When, for instance, we had the election was stolen here in British Columbia in the last provincial election. The evidence is pretty strong to support that. And the PR firms that ran both the Liberal and the NDP campaigns now have shifted off to Ottawa to run the federal election. Particularly the NDP, the people that ran the NDP campaign here are all in the Mulcair camp and running their campaign. So what are the chances that anything really real like this issue about smuggling people into Syria, what are the chances that ever to enter into a discussion and being, you know, letting the public know that the Conservatives are really promoting a war and then pretending to fight it? I mean, it's a perfect strategy to defeat a government on.
Yes.
But something, the advice they're getting from their PR people are telling them not to talk about it. I think that's what's blocking up the situation.
Yes. And what a tragic situation for our country that this is happening, and we all Canadians sit here powerless because there's simply, we have no power. We have nothing.
Yeah, I wonder if I could bring up the Sanities Council shenanigans for a minute. Is it okay?
Oh, absolutely.
I was looking over, well, what was the bottom line here on the Sandage Council? And we've been talking about it for quite a few weeks. And it's always getting back to that really what the Sandage Council did is they acted illegally. When they decided to put spyware on the mayor's computer, on the day that he took office, they did something illegal. It's not in the middle. And no, they actually invaded his privacy and also the privacy of anybody that was contacting the mayor. Now, I think that we're asking for an independent, some kind of investigation. But right now, the Sandage Council wants to more or less investigate themselves. They want the staff to come up and tell them what happened, and then they're going to think about it. Then they're going to do it in private. Then they're going to issue some type of a decision. But I think really what we should be asking for, we should be asking the Minister of Justice, the Provincial Minister of Justice, to investigate a crime and take it right out of their hands. This should not be left up to Sandage Council to look at.
I agree. We
have a situation where it looks like some laws have been broken. And the way they're acting, and like you had your guests on last week, there's always two components to these stories. One is the crime, and then there's the cover-up. And the cover-up's remarkable here. These guys are covering their butts as best they can. And they shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Guys and gals.
Guys and gals. But they should be just taken out of their hands. A third party with authority, like the provincial government, the Ministry of Justice should say, okay, we're going to investigate and see exactly what's happened here. You don't seem to be able to tell us what's happened, so we're going to find out.
And is that happening? Is there?
No. And no, the other thing I want to mention, because you're wondering, in a crime, you're always looking for a motive.
Plus, you're looking for the police.
Yeah, well, in this
That's
case, the police
story.
are involved. But here's a situation, we had almost had that billion-dollar boondoggle shoved down our throats from the CRD to build this waste treatment system.
Right.
Now that's crashed and burned, as far as I can tell.
I hope so.
Now, the Atwell and others were running in the election. Were running against that idea, and one of the main reasons why Richard Atwell, I think, got elected mayor of Sandage is because of his proposals to build a more decentralized sort of sewage treatment system. But the thing is that I think a lot of these councillors, 4 of whom were on the CRD that went along with the idea of building this big plant, 4 of those councillors are in Sandage, and they, other than, well, we have Vic Dermond, who of course always has fought it, but Frank Leonard and 3 other councillors all were promoting this sewage treatment plant.
Frank Leonard, I think, never went to the meetings, so.
But he was a director, and did you ever hear him say anything against it? So, really, what Richard was doing, he was the guy that was standing between some people and $1 billion development. And I think they were desperate. They went after him in a very desperate fashion to try to just hound him out of office. And I think it was, it backfired on them. Now it's all, the chickens are going to come home to roost.
And the media played a big role in that as well.
Oh, exactly. But they did have a motive. There's a lot of money changing hands here. And Richard Atwell was the one guy that was in the middle that was going to keep that from happening.
Our councils make such huge mistakes. And I think it's in part because they're too remote from us. I can remember around 1994, or even a few years before that, I just knew people who were involved with the issue of trying to stop the CRD from logging the watershed where Victoria gets its water from, Souk Lake. They had a commercial, our water district had a commercial logging operation running, and the plan was to clear cut the entire Souk Lake basin.
Yeah.
And citizens found out about this, and there was a small group, especially, and a lot of anger, but especially a small group of people that really led the fight to stop the clear-cut logging of our drinking water reservoir. And the CRD fought them tooth and nail, went to court, The CRD went to court against the citizens who wanted to protect our drinking water. So there's something very wrong at a very deep level.
Well, they've gotten away with it for so long, Jack. I hate to say it, but that the CRD is so removed from reality. They've really are not accountable, and you really don't know what the heck they're up to most of the time. And you have these counselors that are going to the CRD that really don't have a mandate. They say they want to go to a CRD, but we never get to vote on whether or not we want to have these big developments. There's never any, nobody's ever running on doing certain things. They just seem to do it afterwards. And there's some huge problems with the CRD.
But in Victoria, where I live, look at the Blue Bridge. It was exactly the same thing. Exactly. I mean, just a democratic and financial disaster.
Yeah.
And that was done by our city council.
Well, I think Dean Fortin paid the price for that. And I think Frank Leonard paid the price also with the sewage development ideas. I mean, eventually the chickens do come home to roost.
Yeah, Dean Fortin paid the price, but he was, I'd say, not the person who made this happen. There are those powerful economic forces that wanted it to happen. But nothing's changed. I mean, I think if the Blue Bridge issue came up, brand new, because our councils just aren't good enough to protect us in many, many cases. They've got to do a better job.
Yeah, and they have to be more vigilant,
Yeah.
not to rely on staff.
And we have to, but boy, they won't listen to us. It's like we're the outsiders, even though we're the people who elected them. It's a bizarre situation.
Yeah, change comes slowly, but I'm optimistic that we can make some changes here. This might be the mistake that really cleans out a lot of that old council insanity. I think that's what we really need, is to get fresh faces into that council.
Walter, thank you very much.
Much appreciated, Jack.
And thanks for watching Citizens Forum this week. Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, April the 21st. Our guest in this segment is Niels Nohr. And Niels, we're going to be talking about the cooperative workspace. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And what is a cooperative workspace?
Well, a cooperative workspace is when a group of people get together, and rather than everybody owning their own table saw, there's a couple of table saws there. If it's a woodworking shop, if it's a sewing room, if it's a toaster fixing shop, or anything of that nature, whatever. I have found that in our society there is a growing disinterest in everybody having their own complete workshop. And the desire to share tools, for example, tools that you may only use once a month. And how I got involved in this is that I own a building over in Rock Bay that we couldn't sell. And I've been collecting tools my whole life, and I thought these tools are sitting here being underutilized. So I put them all in there, woodworking tools, some metalworking tools, and basically have put the word out that anyone who wants to come and join for a modest fee to participate in this can have access to these tools. And what we're finding is I've had a tremendous amount of interest growing. Older fellows who are selling their homes and losing their shops, moving to condos, that type of thing. Young couples that live in apartment blocks or in condominiums that don't have a workspace. In our city, a lot of homes are losing their basements, suites are being put in, and a lot of interest in terms of coming and participating and having access to a variety of tools. I have a growing vision of this being not just a wood shop, which is what it is now. I have a little clay area that I've set up. I envision a workspace where you want to fix your car, you can come and work on your car. You want to fix your toaster, there's a toaster repair station. You want to make a gift or furniture for your home, or literally anything. You want to sew stuff, you want to cast iron, blow glass. And
it sounds like a very good idea.
Yeah, well, thank you. But it's an interesting concept because we have, you've probably heard of Makerspace.
Makerspace?
Makerspace. There's a big one in Vancouver. There's a few in different places around North America. There's a small one out at the interurban campus of Camosun. And it's a similar idea, but it's centered more around electronic things. They do have a small wood shop where individuals can go and work on electronic projects, and there may be some older chaps working with kids, mentoring, kind of an informal education.
You know, I seem to remember something like that from many, many years ago here, and I think it was a wood shop.
Yeah, that was called Tools and Space. It was over on Esquimalt Road there, and the chap just basically shut it down. It was a good idea. He did a lot of retail sales as well, but he also had rental space available for woodworking specifically. I have a much bigger vision of this at this point. As I said, imagine anything that you need to do to make something or to fix something. I think today there's a real shift in our society away from the idea that ownership has value. Obviously this is not universal, but there's a growing groundswell that owning everything is not really the be-all and end-all, or looking at things on the digital version, the internet, or pictures. There is a real interest by a growing number of individuals, I believe, that want to make things. You know, the tactile quality of creating your own thing, an outlet for creativity, or fixing, as I said.
And I mean, from an environmental point of view, which is very important for me, it means not everybody has to buy a table saw.
Well, precisely.
Yeah, so you can actually manufacture a lot less stuff.
Exactly.
And better quality, and that'll be in the shop.
Well, exactly, and this has already found sway, and I can't remember the name of it, and I should have prepared for this, but there is a...
How about rentals?
Well, you have... Personally, I'm not interested in renting.
Okay.
I'm interested more in having individuals come
Yeah, right.
and grow as a result of doing things. Have a mentor there, someone, I don't know how to do this, can you show me? Have you had experience with this?
Yes.
It kind of ties in with the Danish folk high school system. I'm Danish, of Danish extraction, and it's been around for, since the 1830s, where it was designed by a chap named Grundtvig, I guess you'd pronounce it in English, and he came to realize that there was a large segment of society, the uneducated poor and the peasantry, that had greater capabilities to learn and grow. But they didn't have the opportunity to go to university or to trade schools because they were poor peasantry. And there's about 150 of these schools all over Denmark, and they're attended regularly, sometimes for 3 to 4 months at a time. Families will go together, and people mentor each other. It's not a paper school in the sense that you don't get a degree or anything, and you don't have to pay. It's state supported. And, but it is an opportunity for individual adults to teach each other as compared to a formal education structure.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and I hope you come down to, it's called Plain Aspects. It's down in Rock Bay, and have a look. I do an open house every Monday, 5 to 7, just for people to drop in and have a look. I admit readily it started as an economic concept. I was just trying to pay the mortgage. But I now see this as a much more valuable a gift to the community, I guess, and I'm not suggesting I'm Mr. Wonderful by any means, but I would much rather see these tools I've collected over the years being used. And it is not driven for profit per se, but it is driven for surplus. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to set up an auto body shop where you can come and fix the ding on your car, we need to have resources to do it. And so volume of membership is how that will come, rather than high cost.
Right. Can you just say a bit more about the Danish folk high school system?
Yeah, it's, well, here, can I read a quote from here? Sure. Yeah. Grundtvig identified a growing democratic need in society, a need of enlightening the often both uneducated and poor peasantry. This social group had neither the time nor the money to enroll at a university or needed an alternative. The aim of the folk high school was to help people qualify as active and engaged members of society, to give them a movement and the means to change the political situation from below, and it was designed to be a place to meet across social borders. Now, currently in Denmark, the rich and the poor go there. But he initially started it as a place for the undereducated to go and become educated in an informal basis. In other words, people teaching each other. You know,
So would I go to the one that was in my city?
no, you could go anywhere. They have specialty schools. There may be one that's arts oriented with crafts and pottery. I know of one that is sociology oriented. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but they get together and they talk about social structure, and they engage in creative thinking and proactive societal action as well, potentially.
Let's say I wanted to go to that one. Where do I stay?
Well, you actually live on them, and this was part of the concept, was that you would go and live there and break bread together, if you will, prepare meals together, and
So people
live
can
together.
afford to do it.
Yeah.
Is it free or?
It is basically free. I mean, there's some fees involved, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
just for the maintenance of food and things like that. But the facilities are available through application. Generally, they're located on old farms and things of that nature, you know, with those residences.
You know, when I hear stuff like that, I always think, why isn't Canada doing anything positive? It just seems
Well,
like.
I'll tell you, I had a very good friend who passed away a few years ago. Eileen Armfeldt was her name, and she was working crazy hard to create a model, she was Danish, of the Danish folk high school system here. She had endless meetings with people and tried to garner support to find a venue and so forth. And bless her heart, she worked so hard and had some success in getting an event going, but it lasted a week or so, not like the longer term. But I think our society tends to still be more, I don't know what's the word, but egocentric, I guess. You know, my world, my possessions. I started to talk about, there's a co-op toy movement now that you can access online.
Oh, okay.
Where you can borrow a toy and your child can play with it for a period of time, and then you return it.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's a great teaching opportunity for your child as well to learn responsibility, not to destroy the toy, but to treat it well so that it's available for the next user.
Yes.
I mean, we already have in our society a structure like this. We call them roads. You know, you and I share roads. I walk by where you live on the sidewalk that you and I share, and we've agreed that we'll contribute a little bit of money through our taxes to maintain those roads. Similar idea, only it's a little more focused.
You know, earlier, a few minutes ago, when I said, why isn't Canada doing stuff like this, I meant more our governments than the people. I think people are trying to do a lot of great stuff, like the cooperative workspace. So,
well, I guess my response to that is, this is an interesting thing because I own everything there. So it's really private enterprise in a sense, but it's private enterprise in a, again, I'm not trying to say I'm a wonderful guy, but I'm a generous person, and as such, I'm not doing this to lose money. I'm doing it to provide a service to the community and enable people to enrich their own lives by accessing
so
tools.
are people coming and using it? And
well, I
doing stuff?
have a modest membership. I won't tell you the numbers, but we're certainly in a negative figure at this point. But but I have a lot of interest. You know, I do the open houses, I said, on Mondays, and I have.
So what's the address again?
It's 2520 Bridge Street. We do have a website.
2520 Bridge Street, and the website is?
It's called Plane Aspects, Plane aspects.com.
Okay, PLANE aspects.com. If you're interested in building stuff and in pushing forward the idea.
And if you have something to contribute as well, I'd appreciate any ideas. We have guys there, a guy making hat molds for felt hats. There's a guy making pipes. There's a guy making breadboards that he sells at craft fairs.
Breadboards. Now you're getting down to my level. Niels, we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to segment 3 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, April the 21st in the Memorial Arena in Victoria, BC. I'd like to again thank our volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes this all happen. A couple of weeks ago, we had Captain Sweep on the show, and we talked about what I think is a great name and a great idea, the Planetary Guardians. And through Captain Sweep, I met Glyn Ramkeesoon.
That's correct.
And I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about, but that's the introduction, so away you go.
Okay. Well, first of all, just a little bit of background for me. The way in which it is I got introduced to Elijah a common friend of ours, was through Linda Chan. And she was interested in bringing me forward as a speaker, public speaker, orator, poetry, prose, other things. And my intent at that point was basically to raise consciousness and, most importantly, raise spirits, something that everybody can relate to at this particular time. However, within the 3 weeks that we have discussed the potential of this show, there had been some remarkable movement in terms of my getting 180 acres of land at the summit of Shawnigan Lake that is expropriated predominantly for a male retreat, educational facility, music, and many other things. The people who are all involved are all very experienced professionals, and we are putting together a program with 9 programmers, which include small businessmen here, David Cole, Elijah himself, and some other people that are all investing not only their profession, but also their philanthropy.
So a piece of,
yes.
of a large piece of land has
Yes.
somehow come into
Fruition?
yeah, into the circle.
Yes.
And it's available to be used for
Predominantly for healing. A retreat for men. Women, as we know, have lots of support. Men have very little. So it is a place for that, a sanctuary, if you want to call it, you know. But there will also be educational aspects to it as well. And that's where it is that I come in. Music, art, poetry, prose, many of these things. And a demographic that runs from, let's call it, 16 to 60. All you have to have is will and interest, passion to share, and be serious about your commitment.
So this is going to have to be built, because I
Correct.
guess, okay.
And we are in the process of doing that right now. You'd be amazed at how many people are so interested and enthusiastic in coming forward. It's building very quickly.
So if I, let's say 2 years from now,
Yes.
I wanted to go up there for some healing, which I
Yes.
need as much as the next guy.
Correct. You could go up there now.
That's true. That's true,
Absolutely.
because it's probably a very, very beautiful spot.
It is.
Yeah.
And it already has a full lodge up on the summit, which overlooks Oliphant Lake as well as Shawnigan. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's also sacred land. You know, the community around it, which Dave Cole lives in, and he's given me a very strong indication of their goodwill and their intent behind the protection of that place. At the moment, no one is using it other than the kids. And they, of course, have access to it through, you know, quads and motorcycles and so on and so forth, you know. But it's a well-recognized area in that area and very, very protected. So the community that is around it would have to be bridged and would have to be included, and that would be my intention. They are the people that have been living up there for the last 25, 30 years. They have a great deal of insight and knowledge to pass along.
So, what is a community catalyst?
A community catalyst is a gentleman like myself, a person like myself, who has been given the responsibility and accountability to be able to bring people together. Conduit, energy. And as there is a lot spinning around me for various reasons that all have to do with bringing goodwill, support of community, increasing education in one's consciousness, discourse on humanities, music, art, all of these things that bridge art and spirituality, which is an enormous subject right now, particularly amongst the youth. It's a way of being able to implement all of those things. And because I am living that, I am moving with people who are open, enthusiastic, generous, both of their time, their emotional support, and their finances, you know. So it's very exciting.
You know, when I hear the term community catalyst,
Yes.
I think, boy, we need a lot of these kinds of people doing good stuff. Yeah. When you move around in our society, what do you see great support for the kinds of things you want to do?
Absolutely. Most of my research and my demographic study has been based on the small businessman. 3 businesses that I am involved with at University Heights, Coles Vacuums being one of them. They are one of the oldest dealers in there, and their demographic is established. But he is an open-minded and shrewd businessman, and is interested, like all people at this particular point, not only holding on to what they have in terms of their business, especially if they're in the city, where there's so many businesses closing left, right, and center, but also who are interested in thanking their clients and their patrons for being able to keep them afloat at this most precarious time. So my idea was, rather than taking energy and putting it into McPherson Theatre House, get the talent, including my own and my quartet and Tom Lee and all of what they're bringing, into a forefront and give them a place where the room is free, 2,200 square feet, CTV cameras right beside, so are you. And they are saying thank you to their clients, which they have many, for keeping them in business at this particular time. And at that point, you bring on a 3-hour soft evening, which includes an hour of entertainment, broken by a hair show or another supported business in that area, food, followed by the last 25 minutes of a set, and then people get to direct market, something everybody understands and everybody enjoys. It's a win-win situation. And all you have to do, of course, is to be able to bring a certain level, respectably, of talent and enthusiasm. Because it's not about the money, which is always good and helps, but it's really about raising and maintaining goodwill.
You know, I got into the periphery of some direct marketing things
Yes.
over the last few years, just
Yes.
touching them from the outside almost. And you know, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I mean, to me, I mean, I'm absolutely the last person who would be any good at that. But the people who were involved, you know, it seemed like they were having a good time.
Well, I think that we need to also focus on also some things that bring some smiles to our faces, you know, and also there are a lot of people, like you say, who have, one thing that I foresee here is in this shift there is an enormous disparity between the youth and their mentors, the adults. Why is that? First. Secondly, what do you intend on doing about it? Communication is the only thing, and it's wanted from both sides. The youth need wisdom. Mentors need the ability to pass on their experience and their knowledge, and it's vital.
Yes, and the two are like a kind of apart.
So therefore, in comes me. And that's
Okay.
what it is, that's what I'm standing for.
You said something that surprised me. I should probably say you said many things that
Yes.
surprised me, but you said businesses are closing left, right, and center?
Yes.
I mean, what I keep hearing
Okay, it's a renewal.
from the
Yes.
top down
Yes.
is that the economy is doing great.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
what's the
when
reality?
one looks around physically, the city, that'll tell you. Exactly. It's kind of, you know, well, you know.
Yeah, that's very true.
Exactly. And it's that feeling that leaves new people that are coming into the city to visit, people who are already here, they don't want to come into the city. What for? Grab a little this, grab a little that, and then they're out. They're quite happy in their suburbs, thank you. So nobody's bringing anybody together. And there is no competition for what it is I'm suggesting or what it is already has been, you know, put onto the plate and accepted. So,
But it sounds like what you're going to be doing is going to be getting done out at Shawnigan Lake, not in downtown Victoria.
well, it'll be a combination of Victoria, Shawnigan Lake, and Vancouver. Because there are events in all of those places where you can tie consciousness and also sustainability.
You know, I mean, I'm into sort of media and news.
Yes.
And I wonder if a kind of, you know, I think where can people get some truth other than what is in the corporate media. And I would love if there was venues, not only here in Victoria, but right across the country, where, you know, almost like an ongoing vaudeville show moving across the country, where well-known speakers are speaking at major locations, and people can come and hear and see the truth because they're not getting it anywhere else.
Absolutely, and you know what? That's what is called for.
Yeah.
And it is on that frequency that gives me the force to come forward.
And Glyn, we're out of time.
There you are.
Glyn Ramkeesoon, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jack.
And thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. Welcome to the last segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, April the 21st. Our guest in this segment is Rick Habgood. Rick, you've been on the show quite a few times.
Lucky guy.
Yeah. We usually talk about proportional representation. I think we're going to be talking about that again. So changing our voting system to something that is, I think, more democratic, and most importantly, will give us the governments that we actually elect, because the voting system we use now, and this is very important, does not give us the governments we vote for, which is a very important mistake and disaster, but very useful to the people who run the country. So, Rick, you wanted to start off, I think, with 3 announcements.
Yeah, there's just a few announcements that I'd like to make. I'm with Fair Vote Canada, and we're actually hosting one event in Nanaimo, and then we're going to be taking part in other events. The first event that we're going to be taking part in is coming up this Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be April 25th and 26th. And the event is called Creatively United for the Planet. This is a Earth Day festival.
Right,
okay?
right.
And it's happening at the English Inn at 429 Lamson Street in Esquimalt. So we're going to be tabling there. If you happen to be going to the event, drop by the table and ask whatever questions that you might have about electoral reform, and we'll be happy to tell you all about it.
Yeah.
So that's going to be this Saturday and Sunday. That's April the 25th and the 26th, and it goes from 12 o'clock noon to 7 o'clock in the evening. And once again, it's being put on by really good folks, Creatively United for the Planet. I like that. Earth Day Festival. Okay, the second one I'd like to announce is now the Green Party candidate, Frances Littman, from the Esquimalt riding, she's putting together some community connectors, which are basically town hall meetings.
Oh, okay.
But she's calling them community, and she's going to be putting together 4 of them. And each connector has got a different topic. And this particular topic is democracy and the military.
Democracy and the military.
I don't know how that works, democracy and the military. The military is not very democratic. But anyways, it should be interesting.
Yeah.
And Wendy Bergerud, who is the president of Fair Vote Canada, who I'm with, is going to be doing a presentation at that meeting. And there's also going to be a table. So, which means there's going to be information about proportional representation. This is all concerning electoral reform. And this particular meeting, once again, is about democracy and the military. And once again, this is a Frances Littman, and she's the Green Party candidate federally for Esquimalt.
And when's that happening?
And that's going to be happening on April the 30th between 7 and 9. And that's going to be at, once again, the English Inn on Lamson Street. So that's real easy. So once again, you can go to the English Inn on Lamson Street in Esquimalt, and that's between 7 and 9 p.m. And that's going to be another really great event. That's going to be on April the 30th.
And Fair Vote Canada has, the last time I went, I thought it was a pretty interesting website, so it's worth a visit.
Absolutely.
The issue is important. The issue is of fundamental importance, although it's already very, very late in the game.
I think it's basic.
It's basic, yeah.
I mean, it's basic to who we are, what we are, and where we want to go.
And now we are going to...
we got one more thing to do, one more, Jack.
Okay.
There's one more event coming up on May the 6th, between 7 and 9 on May the 6th, and this is up in Nanaimo. Fair Vote Canada has actually put together an all-candidates meeting. It's going to be a debate, but it's going to be on democracy.
Okay.
And this is going to be happening in Nanaimo at the Beeben Park Lounge facility. And so this is an all-candidate, once again, all-candidate event. Fair Vote Canada is hosting the event. And once again, May 6th, between 7 and 9, at Beeben Park Lounge facility.
Is it going to be webcast or anything like that?
You're going to be what?
Webcast or anything like that, so people here can...
Well, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, the issue is important.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy. It's fairly easy to do.
I think that particular aspect is going to be more and more common.
Yeah.
And I just don't. And I think that just maybe people within the community, the Fair Vote Canada community, is not really that savvy yet to that sort of thing. They will be.
Good.
But they will.
Now you're going to connect the dots.
So now, yeah, we're gonna connect the dots, and this is going to be. Jack asked me for something to talk about, and of course it's never ending. And I thought a real hot button item for Canadians, at least it is for me, and I know for a lot of other people, is genetically modified food.
Yes.
That is a big topic in this country. And what is the position of Canada being a first past the post system? When I read out this information, you can just carbon copy it to the United States, because that's exactly how they feel. That's exactly how the people in Britain feel.
So you're saying the first past the post,
yeah,
which is the
all
voting
of these
system we
societies
use.
are from first past the post.
So our voting system,
That's the
take a
voting
look
system.
at our position on genetically contaminated foods.
You got it.
And then take a look at the position of countries that use a proportional voting system, and you start to see the importance of a proportional voting system,
Right.
which is why the media never talks about it, because they don't want you to know how important it is.
Yeah, the media.
Oh,
Well, you do. You're the media.
Yeah.
But Jack's absolutely correct. What this shows is a first past the post voting system is the beginning of it. And as the system moves down the line, these are the results of that system. And these are the way in which we connect the dots. So a report by the School of Public Policy and Governance, the University of Toronto, 3 things that came out of that report. And this is a 2014 report. In Canada, and this is amazing, in Canada, about 70% of the processed food found in grocery stores includes genetically engineered ingredients. 70% of all foods that you buy that are processed have got genetic GMOs in it.
yeah. They're poisoning us, folks, and they don't care.
Yet there are no laws in the country requiring that they be labeled to reflect this. There are no laws whatsoever. Now, on top of this 70%, right, public opinion polls conducted over the past decade have found that between 80 and 90% of Canadians support labeling of GMO food. So we've got 80 to 90%. That's not even what you term a big majority. That's a massive majority of people want to see these foods labeled.
But we can't get it.
They're not labeled. And this is another one too. Despite releasing, this is unbelievable. This is the icing on the cake with the cherry. Despite releasing its own report in June of 2014, acknowledging that Canadians want the federal government to act on GMO labeling, Health Canada has no plans to conduct any long-term studies on the health impact of genetically engineered foods.
And they never have conducted.
And they
any
never
studies.
have. They do not, we do not study any of the GMO foods. None. We rely 100% on Monsanto and companies like Monsanto to send in their reports. And of course, we believe them. Now, that is how a first past the post. That's exactly how it works in the United States, and they have a first past the post democracy.
And now
It's not even a democracy.
we only have 2 minutes left to
Oh, do you?
explain
Okay,
the German
well, we gotta-
system. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to proportional representation, the MMP system of Germany. So let's do that quick. So here's Germany's position, and this is a PR position. Der Spiegel recently revealed that between 2009 and 2013, Chancellor Angela Merkel commissioned 600 public opinion polls on the German electorate's feelings. These are what guide her actions. So she puts out opinion polls constantly, and she gets the feedback. And so she knows what the Germans are thinking and what they want, okay? When asked about her opinion on GMOs, she said, "What matters is that the German people have rejected GMOs." Therefore, Germany will continue to reject them. All GMO ingredients must be labeled. The German position on GMOs is characterized by a population that is adverse to GM plants in foodstuffs and apprehensive in the release of GMOs into the environment. That's the German position, and that's PR. And that's because in PR, you get elected by percentage of votes. At a first past the post, you get elected by seats, the number of seats. You have 38% of the vote, you can have majority of the seats. So you have a party that's at 38%. Well, I know we got to go.
Right then. Rick, thank you very much. The point is fundamentally important. Thanks for watching Citizen Forum this week.